That's a great many of bags of red compost.
Oh, they just put it in there by a big old bucket. But anyways,
that's good.
Yeah, by a big old
Yeah.
scoop. But anyways, he goes, I'm not a spectator. He goes, I'm family, I'm blood. I go, you are in that perspective, as far as the 291 Thompson Road and 430 Beach Grove Road, as far as us being kin, as far as us having the same blood, as far as us being family. I go, yes, you're not a spectator.
Yeah, and technically
You're not a spectator.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, pertaining to the ministry, pertaining to you either supporting me or backing me or being in behind me, I said, Jimbo, all you are is a spectator.
Yeah.
It ain't like that you've involved your life, half of your life, the same as me, towards dedicating 30 plus years into this ministry, and you've been right there beside me, and you've been out here going door to door and dropping off literature and being out money and time and all this other stuff.
Right.
I said, you're a spectator.
Right.
And I go, but besides that, if they do wind up doing me like Martin Luther King, in which that's the whole thing, they have smartened up here in America. Whenever they killed Martin Luther King,
Mm-hmm.
they basically turned him into a martyr.
Oh, of course. And they didn't know what they did until after they had done it.
Until after they had done it, right.
Sure.
And that means that his message become probably 1,000 more times effective and 1,000 more times powerfuler after his death than he ever thought about during his life.
Right.
Well, the exact same thing happened to Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And look what happened to it. Turned into a Bibleist in every fucking motel and every facet of life.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So they have smartened up with me to the degree that they're not going to actually, or they haven't yet, I begged them to just go ahead and kill me.
Yeah.
Go ahead and put a bullet in my skull and treat me as a martyr. But they don't want to do that because they've smartened up and they realize that if they do that, there's enough evidence, there's enough people out there that has heard of Dennis James Juby Jackson that eventually somebody's going to pick up the pieces of the puzzle and say, well, hey, this was another one.
Wait a minute. Here's another one that falls in that into that.
Right. Here's another one that had a strong message to devote to society, to the general public in the regard of a ministry. And you got to face it, regardless whether you're prejudiced or not, the man was a minister.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King was a minister. He wasn't a politician.
Well, they always called him doctor. Well, he had no doctorate, and no nigger back then at that time did.
Well, but since his death,
oh yeah.
Since his death, they have analyzed his messages and they have looked at his methodology, and they have put him in the same degree as probably a great philosopher or a theologian or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In honor of his works.
Oh, sure.
In honor of his works.
He had nothing that he ever preached talked about beating on a white man.
No, his message was all about peace. It was all about
peace,
love,
getting along, and becoming equals with everybody else.
Right. But these redneck hillbillies around here, they didn't want to put up with that. They didn't want to hear that.
Oh, no.
A matter of fact, I can remember whenever he got assassinated, we had just moved from Chicago down here during all that uproar.
Oh, at that Lorraine motel or something like that?
Yeah, but I can still remember to this day, all the old timers around here, they cheered it.
Oh, I'm sure.
They cheered it.
I'm sure they did. That's another nigga down.
Yeah, they cheered it.
Sure.
Because the Nathan Bedrick doctrination had done already sunk into this society around here. Sure. And it ain't just over here. It ain't just in Northwest Tennessee. It's widespread.
Yeah.
It's more in your Confederate states than it is anywhere else.
True.
But it's a message of hate towards gonna demonize somebody because of the color of their skin.
Yeah.
Well, why are they demonizing me for? They're not demonizing me necessarily on account of my skin. They're demonizing me because they don't like the message that's coming from the messenger pertaining to Armageddon, the two witnesses, the opening of the seals, right? Right?
Pretty much.
Thing about it is, it's not my message.
No, it's secondhand message.
Yeah, that's a secondhand message coming from me.
Right.
I didn't write the book of Revelations. I didn't write the book of the Bible. I didn't sit down and design the destruction of humanity as it's supposed to unfold according to the will of God.
Have you ever read the Quran?
I've read parts of it. I've been told that it's perverted, pertaining to wanting to do.
It's leading more toward men.
Right.
Men and holding them so high.
Right, but it's also leading to destruction of humanity of those that don't convert.
Right. Right. It's either convert or die.
Right. Right. And that's not what Jesus taught. Jesus said to be wise as serpents but harmless as doves. And that's the one thing that they cannot yet put at my charge, is that I have yet to get violent with any of them, including Mr. Donald Ridgeway. That's what all that's been about for the past 4 years, is provoking, and eventually we'll suck him down to the point that he turns like us.
Till he escalates.
Right.
Yeah.
And they done the exact same thing to Jesus Christ, and it was only until the latter part of it, whenever Palm Sunday come, because one of the disciples seen what was going on, and he spoke up against it whenever the people was putting down palms in front of the donkey, one of the humblest animals on the world,
right.
And they was bowing down to him and saying, Hosanna, Hosanna to the Son of God, which actually means our liberator, our liberator. Okay, well, whenever Jesus walked into the city, rather than him turning right at the temple and going where the Romans was, he turned to the left and went where his own people was, and where the Jewish sector was.
Yeah.
And whenever he went in there, he seen what all that they was doing. They was betting, they was gambling. Basically it was like a meat market, or whatever you want to call it, towards exchanging gold for silver and goats for chickens and everything else. And that's whenever Jesus got mad and turned over all the money chambers. And what it doesn't say in the King James Version is that he actually took a whip and started whipping. And a whip is just like a lethal weapon.
Sure.
And you're not going to stand there with somebody with a whip in their hand if you got any sense at all. You're going to get away from them. You're going to back up. And he basically run everybody out of that temple that day.
Sure.
Well, from that day on, which was Palm Sunday, that's whenever the plot come into play towards, we're not just going to mess with this guy, we're fixing to kill him. We're fixing to assassinate him.
Sure.
And sure enough,
they weren't, after that, they weren't making the money they were making before.
well, it's not only that, but he put fear in them.
Sure.
Because they seen that as it being an act of violence.
Right.
Is what they seen that as.
Yeah.
In which he wasn't, the Bible says to be angry but sin not. You can get angry, and just because you get angry don't necessarily mean that you've sinned.
No.
No.
But
they seen that as a form of violence, and because of it, that's whenever they turned, a 180-degree turn. They was already wanting to turn against him anyway. Keep in mind, they'd been plotting for his for his demise ever since basically that he had been born.
Right. Well, ever since Egypt.
No, there was a plot to kill him at his birth.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
King Herod put out an order to kill all the firstborn.
Yeah.
So they knew that he was there.
Yeah.
And they was infuriated and intimidated by him because they knew that he was real. That he wasn't fake like the rest of them. Right. And because of it, they was out to get him.
Sure. So you're out making your rounds today?
I'm going to Dresden. I'm fixing to pay off the rest of my tickets. And I want to tell them I hope that their $650 has been well earned because of the events fixing to happen that's going to occur this year, the year of the Jubilee in 2018. And then I'm going to go up there and talk to my probation officer. And I'm going to make sure that it's all right for me to spend a little bit of time out on the Tennessee River, about 2 counties over.
Okay. So probably after you get the okay on that, then you'll be coming back for a camper top.
No. I won't mess with that camper top at all.
Oh, okay.
No.
You're gonna leave this thing?
No, I'll take this out. This is just for Easter, and it's for Martin Luther King. And if you read the message, where I got hope, and what other word is that beside hope?
Imaginary? Reality?
No, beside hope.
Where are you? Hope. Hope and faith.
No, don't say faith.
The fairy tale.
Right. What the message that I'm putting out to around here is that not only was the birth and the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ not a fairy tale, not only was the assassination of Martin Luther King not a fairy tale, not only is the problems that we're having right now pertaining to immigrants crossing the border not a fairy tale, but apparently these people around here must have thought that whenever I started stepping out into the eyes of the public with my message, as far as the first seal of the book of Revelations being opened, and spent so much time out in the eyes of the public, they must have thought that it was a fairy tale.
Yeah, right? Now they just think that, turn a blind eye. And
they thought that it was either a fairy tale, or they thought that I had lost my literal loving mind. One or the other.
Yeah.
But I do think that as much time and effort and as much energy that I put into it, I do think that there's certain people that have observed and said, you know what, maybe there is something to all this, because he's kept this up now for 30 years. But now to get them to admit that out in the open, it would be like pulling hen's teeth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Non-existent.
It would be like pulling hen's teeth.
Yeah. We know. Ain't got none. I know.
Right.
My mother used to use that term, too.
Right. But now I've got my little PA. I've got me a couple flags here. I plan on setting up shop there in front of the courthouse. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to finish paying off my $650 worth of tickets, or my fines, or my court cost, or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to finish paying that off today. And I'm going to say sayonara. See, this has been a big development thing with me and Mr. Tommy Moore. Whenever they first launched in defiance of this ministry, going all the way back to 1989, whenever I first stood out into the eyes of the public, there was a defiant move up in Madison County. And about 3 years later, after Tommy Moore left the position of being an attorney and started being a judge, the first year that he became a judge, I remember sitting down in front of him.
Okay.
And I explained to him what all had happened and what was going on with the ministry. I said, there's no way that this is right, man. I go, first of all, a right to freedom of speech, right to bear arms. They confiscated the original aluminum sword from me and charged me with a deadly weapon. And my God, it wouldn't have cut in hot butter.
Right.
It wouldn't have cut in hot butter. And I actually had to go and I actually had to go purchase another sword on St. John Street in Florida, in St. Augustine, which is one of the oldest residents in the country, documented residents anyway, according to modern English day language.
Okay.
But I had to go purchase another sword and go through the whole ceremony again up there in Land Between the Lakes.
Okay.
And if the truth,
to have it blessed?
Yeah, to have it sanctified.
Yeah.
And if the truth be known, they'd take that sword too if they could.
Sure.
They want to take my rights away. They want to take my voting rights away, my voting privileges. They want to take the right towards me being able to handle any type of firearm away. And if the truth be known, they would take not only the right towards me having a bow and arrow or a slingshot or a BB gun or a sword, but they would stick me away in a rubber room somewhere and put a padlock on it and shut me the hell up, because they do not want the
message to be heard.
They do not want the founder of the Windmill Ministries ministry or Windmill Ministries message. They do not want the founder to be able to get that message out to be effective in society. So they're doing whatever that they can at all costs to shut me up.
Sure.
To shut me up.
Yeah.
Rather than being brutal about it like they was 50 years ago and actually put a gun
to your head or something like
right,
that. Yeah.
Right. Rather than do that, they're going about doing it in different forms, in different ways.
Well, sure. I mean,
But their goal is still the same.
I mean, the government nowadays, they'll walk around. They got a set of blue gloves.
Blue gloves.
Blue gloves. You know,
Okay.
latex gloves.
Okay.
And them blue gloves, they just got to touch you anywhere. 30 seconds later, you're having a heart attack.
Who's told you about this?
I got a friend of mine that's in the FBI.
Really?
Yeah.
What is it? Strychnine or what is it?
It's a chemical induced heart attack.
Good God.
Yeah.
Well, what's that stuff that they can put on poison darts over in what is that? India?
It's a frog venom.
Frog venom. Yes, that's
Yeah.
supposed to be very potent too.
Very, very paralyzes you.
Yeah, that'll shut you down.
And so would the puffer fish
Right.
has a venom that runs in their spines
Right.
that you can secrete off of the fish itself and utilize.
I didn't know that. And of course, there's all kinds of different stuff that
Well, they
you
take
can.
a live fish and they put it in a tank and they can put a heat lamp on it and let it dry out and die.
And of course, there's all kinds of stuff. They let it die and then drain the.
No, it just goes to the bottom. It settles at the bottom, and then they just siphon that off. That's strong venom.
But you know as well as I do, there's other kinds of herbs and stuff that you can.
Oh yeah.
That you can get from trees and
what is it? The African rainforest or the rainforest? They got a lot of animals out there that's got all kinds of venom that they can inject or rub on a person, and our body will, it'll
shut it down.
It'll absorb it, and then we'll have all kinds of problems going on with us.
Absolutely.
They did all that testing back when World War II. I mean, in Vietnam.
That's where they come up with that Ancient Orange, that cancer.
Yep.
They gave all them guys all that cancer.
Agent Orange.
Wasn't that pathetic? That was sickening, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, they had all kinds of people falling, organs shutting down on them, and
Right.
And they
Foaming at the mouth.
Had no idea what the hell was going on until this military doctor came in and said, "Wait a minute, I seen this in Vietnam."
Right.
Then they just referred them all, says, "Look, that's why they have all of them go to nothing but the VA."
But getting back to Martin Luther King, which is tomorrow.
Yeah.
The anniversary tomorrow.
I thought it was today.
No, it's the 4th, tomorrow.
Okay.
During that movement, or during that revolution of desegregating one class of people from another, it wasn't just Martin Luther King that sacrificed a great deal in his family. It was a lot of those people that said, you know what, I don't care if I go to jail. I'm an activist, and what they're doing is wrong, and they should let us have a right to sit on the front of the bus just like anybody else. We should have a right to drink out of the same water fountain as anybody else.
Right.
And this country was so upside down at the time, they actually was doing something. The white class was doing something that now is looked upon as being mean and ungodly and cruel. Right. But at that time, they actually thought that they was in the right.
Right. Yeah.
They was that stupid.
Yeah.
Or ignorant.
Ignorant. I want to say ignorant.
Or untaught.
Ignorant. I can't say untaught because back then everything was on a learning curve. Where
do you think that ideology come from? It come from over in Europe. Whenever after the Civil War had ended, whenever they started the Ku Klux Klan.
What to do now with the blacks?
That's where that ideology started from. Whenever Uncle Tom come home and realized, where's Big Jim, or where's Uncle Albert, or where's Aunt Sue? Well, she died during the Civil War. What? Yeah, she's gone. And all that animosity started brewing up in them after 1865. And the next thing you know, they formated this group called the Ku Klux Klan, in which Nathan Bedford Forrest denounced before he died. He said it was evil. He said it was wrong.
Sure.
But man, they took off on that, and they started, sure enough, attacking the black man.
Name Donald Duke or something like that?
I don't know, but the white race has been one of the cruelest races in history. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Look what they've done to the Jews.
Oh yeah.
Look what they've done to the Indians.
I wouldn't really.
Look what they've done to the Irish.
Yeah, but the Aryan Brotherhood. I really wouldn't classify them Nazis as white, because they were more European back-ass words, hicks. That was
kind of like what I've been dealing with around here.
Pretty much.
Basically.
They're set in their ways,
right?
And then
they're indoctrinated.
What works for them,
right?
They keep doing,
and they don't want no change.
No,
they don't want to evolve.
They want to keep the status quo as it is.
Right, and the thing about it is, the young generation and the poor generation continues to keep suffering.
Sure.
While they're doing great, they're driving around in their nice trucks and their nice cars, and they got their nice homes and nice bank accounts. And
they have big ideas, but see, the older generation
keeps them smothered down, keeps them shut up.
They suppress them. Yeah.
They suppress them.
Sure.
That's what they're trying to do to me.
Well, they've been doing that for years with many people.
They're trying to suppress me.
Oh yeah.
For 30 years.
Well, they've been suppressing you for 30 years. But look what they did. What, suppressed Jesus, Moses and Jesus?
They didn't want me to have a voice.
Well,
they didn't want me to have a platform with my voice.
Yeah.
They didn't care if I had a voice.
Right.
You know, you can be in prison and preach.
You got Facebook, and Facebook's got a platform.
Yeah.
And you got followers.
Yeah.
And that is probably burning their ass.
Oh, you know it is.
Because.
Well, that and the fact that I've waded through all this now for 30 years and I'm still going at it. I'm still alive. I'm still singing the same song and dance, and they're memorized by it. You know, like my niece said, she goes, Dennis, they're fascinated over you. I said, yeah, they're fascinated over me, but they're fascinated in the wrong way. They're fascinated in the sense of wondering how come I'm still living.
They're not fascinated. They're fixated.
Is that the right word?
Fixated, yeah.
Like Donald Ridgway?
Pretty much. Yeah, he's
possessed.
Well, no.
Possessed.
No, it's. I mean, that's not the same. Fixated is you have a focus, and that is it. Period.
But they're trying to interrupt that focus of mine.
Of course. If they can distract you,
that way they can steal my crown.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean. You know,
my spiritual crown. My spiritual crown.
Exactly. Well, no, they can break your spirit. And if they can break your spirit and waver you, I want to say.
Conquer me?
Yeah.
Overcome me?
They can suppress the message. You know, if they can break you and get in and drive you to a point where you're ready for suicide or whatever. Okay, fine, that's great.
Or drive me to the point that I myself cross the line. Right. And that's basically what they was doing to Jesus. They was provoking him.
Same thing with this numbnuts over here.
Yeah.
He wants to push you to the point where he's praying to God that you will cross that line.
Right.
So he can get you out of the picture or whatever and do as he pleases.
Right. And then after he wins, I guess the neighborhood's gonna elect him towards being the town mayor.
I don't know.
Right? He'll be the mayor. He'll be the great conqueror on the white horse. He'll be the hero.
He'll be the great poobah.
Right.
He might win some favors after that fact.
Right, right. You run him out. You run him to his death. You caused him to.
The man who makes the guy cross the line.
Right.
He's the guy that they want to keep in their little circle.
Right.
Indoctrinate into their circle.
Right.
Because, he thinks the way we do.
Sure.
You know, but see, we didn't have the balls enough to do it, but he did.
But he did, yeah.
So he'd be.
So he's basically their trigger man.
Well, maybe.
He's their trigger man.
Tool.
Huh?
He's a tool.
He's the pawn.
I would say a pawn. But he's a tool.
He's their pansy.
Ponzi.
Huh?
Ponzi. Like a Ponzi scheme.
Right.
You know, where
he's their Ponzi.
They get you in, and then they do as they please, and once they get you out of the picture, then
you know as well as I do, 85 to 90% of these ministers around here, all they are is paid off panhandlers.
Sure.
They preach what the deacon body or what the majority wants them to preach, and if they get a little bit too loud, or if they get a little bit too radical, or if they get over there in that area where they're really preaching, let's put it this way. In the summertime,
I don't see no funnels.
In the summertime, listen to me. In the summertime, whenever the majority of the people strip off most of their clothes and walk around naked, enticing one another sexually, well, we're going to stay out of that scripture pertaining to adultery.
Okay.
We only preach that every now and then, and we darn sure ain't gonna preach it during the summer months. You can only preach it during the winter months when everybody's fully clothed and everybody's halfway dressed nice and acting nice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? In the meantime, don't get too loud, don't get too abrupt.
There's a time and a place for everything. And a place and a time.
Right.
You reading a big sign?
Can we help you with something, ma'am?
She's trying to read your sign.
Did you have a happy Easter?
Yeah, I had a good Easter.
You didn't come down to eat, did you?
No, I didn't.
I didn't think so.
I wasn't invited.
I wasn't either.
He was out of town.
I was out of town.
I wasn't either. I was here.
You like my sign?
I was just reading it. Yeah.
Right?
Yep. So far, so good.
Right?
You behave yourself.
Oh yeah, I'm sticking out like a turd in a toilet bowl.
There
Can't you
go.
tell?
There you go. Let them know you're there.
I ain't backing off from them.
Let them know you're there.
Right? I may not get no supporters or no backers or no partners to partner up with, but I'm gonna put my mark on that tree just like a dog leaving its mark before I leave from here.
How's the building going?
Building's over with. That's been over with what, 7-8 months?
You got anybody staying down there?
6, 7 months, yeah.
You know you got something leaking out of your truck. Uh-oh. That looks like trans fluid.
No. What's in this bed?
Oh.
It looks like blood, don't it?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Huh? Looks like blood.
Yes.
That's good mulch there.
Yeah, it is.
Redwood.
But anyways, I'm fixing to go to Dresden and take care of some problems or some issues, and then after that, I'll probably go back to Martin. I found out yesterday that I've been banded from UTM College up here since 2014.
Really?
Yeah, David told me that somebody had
Passed
sent
word to
a
him.
somebody had sent a certified letter, but it went to 430 Beech Grove Road rather than 291.
I went to his address instead
It
of
went to
yours.
his address instead of mine, and David refused to sign for it, but he told me about it. He said, "What's going on up here at the college with you?" I go, "I don't think anything. Why?" He goes, "Well, you got a certified letter that come over here, and I refused to sign it, and I kicked it back." I go, "Really?" I go, "It's probably whenever I was passing out some material right there at the police station, and I walked around, and they got a thing over there for UTM, some sort of a,
Shindig going on.
yeah, it was something, and I gave this girl this
Yeah.
this brochure that I was passing out to everybody, and she kind of halfway refused to take it, and I told her, I said, no, that's okay, go ahead and keep it. I said, if you don't do nothing else, just catch 20 to it and throw it in the waste can.
That's it.
I wasn't expecting for her to freak out.
Right. Or take it so threateningly serious.
Right. You know what they banded me for?
Huh.
For being
Trespassing?
no, not trespassing, for being suspicious.
Really?
I didn't know that you could ban somebody for being suspicious.
No. As far as I know, you can't.
Well, I mean, if it's your property, I guess you can use whatever entitlement that you want to use, regardless whether it's suspicious or ugly or whatever, you know. But the bottom line is that those people up there in Martin, Tennessee, discriminated against me in a university and a college, and that's one of the areas that you're for darn sure not supposed to discriminate against freedom of speech and freedom of this and freedom of that.
Especially religion. Yeah. That's not too smart.
No,
For
it's
them-
not.
For them.
But
too smart.
UTM Martin, the college up there,
They're getting-
man, they probably
they're getting
own a
too big.
third.
They're getting too big for their pants.
They probably own a third of Martin up
Oh,
there.
I'm sure they do.
Yes, sir. If they ain't got their hands in one thing, they got their hands in something else that you would never think that they'd have their hands in.
Yeah, like nail salons and
Right.
restaurants and
Right.
shit like that.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't doubt it one
So
bit.
how do you vote the guy off the island when the guy that you
Damn
want
near
off
owns
the
it.
island owns the island?
Damn near owns the island. Yeah.
How do you get him off the island?
Board of Trustees.
It's just like that letter that I sent.
Well,
you know,
whoever-
you know as well as I do, that letter that I sent never was reviewed.
No. I mean,
It never was a proper investigation.
And that one guy who, that one judge who's suspended from going to court and going to using court resources or whatever.
Right.
You know that is the very same agency that you contacted.
Yes.
And I'm sure they spent more than a half an hour or so on his case to investigate it and whatever, where in your case, they breezed right through it. And
Oh, they done already seen me on Facebook. They done already know that I was whining and crying about something that went on down here. They already had it figured out, chapter and verse.
Read between the lines and all that.
Chapter and verse.
Yeah.
Just like Jim Boy said a while ago, my cousin. He said, you cannot fight City Hall. You can't fight the people. And you know what?
City Hall is not the people.
And you know what? You can't. But I know somebody that can.
Sure, a governor or something like that.
No. His name is God.
Oh, of course.
Capital G-O-D, and he'll continue to bring retribution and more wrath upon these people until they finally figure out, well, apparently we must have done something wrong. That's the reason why God continues to keep pouring all this bad stuff up into our lives.
Yeah.
But as long as the rich and as long as the powerful are still in charge and are still dominating the working class and the poor class, we're at this stalemate.
Yeah.
We're at this stalemate.
Yeah, we're at that impasse.
Well,
all right, buddy, get out
wish
of here.
me luck.
Get out of here.
Hopefully,
get arrested.
Hopefully, I won't get charmed into
Don't get arrested.
a bear cage or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You too. This right here is at the Elizabeth Inn in 7/8/2009. I was in Atlanta, Georgia. This is out of Must Ministries. And this was right after the economical bubble burst, and factories were shutting down and businesses were shutting down.
You mean
and
after 9/11?
No. This is on the 9th. This was after the big bubble burst. What I'm getting at is that they have such small minds to remember of the occurrences that we've already went through that brought devastation into a lot of people's lives. They don't remember financially and emotionally and ruined people and put good families out on the streets. They don't remember that God is in control of all this and that he can do the same thing but 100 times worse.
Oh yeah.
But 100 times worse.
Yep.
That can come in the form of a flood, a fire, a tornado, a hurricane,
any and all of the above.
Any and all the above.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yet now I keep having resistors.
Well,
Instead of having supporters, I keep having people that want to criticize me and shut me up and put me down.
right. Some things you can help and other things you can't. They have to see the light first before they can become a believer or be open. Their hearts and emotions are all closed off in their little worlds.
They're indoctrinated.
Pretty much.
They've been hoodwinked. They've been bamboozled
What's that
in their own belief.
What's the word I like to use?
Deceived.
They've been honey-dicked.
I don't know about that word.
Honey-dicked?
I've never heard that word.
That's where a guy will say anything and everything.
Just to get some putang?
No, just to convince the other person that they are right or they are wrong. They are honey-dicking you. It's a term that they use in the boardroom.
I've never heard that term.
Yeah. Well, if you ever ask Siri, she'll tell you.
Really?
Yeah.
See, and I've never asked him for a penny. It ain't like that I'm out here panhandling.
No, but...
I could sue them. I could sue all of them. But what good does it do to sue them whenever ultimately it's going to be the taxpayer that's going to be paying the price? After you get a large settlement from suing an agency, it's the taxpayers that fit the bill.
And you get a big notoriety. newspapers.
Well, they own the
Yeah, but
newspapers.
you get a big, news is news. You sue somebody, now it's real public. Especially if you get a settlement. Especially if they want to try to settle out a case. You don't have to disclose or non-disclose it. Unless they have you sign some non-disclosure agreement, which we already see that what's her name didn't give a fuck about that, and she went against the president.
What do you? I think she ought to be arrested. Her and that attorney both, because they signed a
non-disclosure agreement.
Right.
And they disclosed it.
And they disclosed it.
Every bit of it.
I know.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that the lawyer and client privilege only goes so far.
Right.
But she should be arrested for breaking that contract and trampling the fuck out of it on national TV.
And he should be reprimanded for breaking the code of conduct pertaining to an attorney that knows, he knowingly knew that she had signed that. It'd be different if he didn't know it.
Oh, he knew it. Now, he had a lawyer pull it up, draw it up.
He was the attorney.
Clinton, yeah. No, he wasn't the attorney. I'm talking about Trump. Now, Trump, he's the one who had a lawyer on his behalf draw that contract up as a non-disclosure agreement. And then later on, she says, wait a minute, oh, he became president. Fuck, I had a relationship with him.
But hasn't that gotten that way all over America? It doesn't matter. You know, it used to be that a handshake, we got by with a handshake, and now it doesn't matter. You can have somebody sign 50,000 different papers. It doesn't matter if they're buying a brand new automobile or submitting themselves to a home loan. A year from now, if they want to walk away from it, they walk away from it.
Yeah, but usually if it's written in there that you don't do this or you can't do that or you have to pay this to get out of the contract, you got to comply. And if it says that you do not discuss whatever happened between me and you, then that's how it is.
But I'm just saying, in general speaking, the general public no longer cares about what they sign.
No.
They no longer care about the law of the land.
Reading the contract.
They no longer care about the law of the land. You know what I'm saying?
Everything like cable TV and signing up for cell service.
Well, they've gotten smarter with these automobiles to the point that now they got a computer on there to where if you don't pay your payment and you disappear, they can actually shut that vehicle down. They can disable the automobile now to where it's no longer considered a piece of transportation.
Right.
Now, could they do the same thing to a house? Could they could they insert some sort of a smell or a sound thing in there to where if you do not
a smart meter,
to the point that if you don't make all your payments, and after let's say 6 months, that they could press a button and this noise, this incredible sound would actually run whoever's in that house out? Could homeowners start doing that?
I don't think so.
Or some sort of a smell?
I don't think so, but they could turn the electric off. You ain't got no electric, you ain't got nothing. You got everything in your fridge going, freezer going, bad.
You can always get a generator. That ain't gonna solve nothing. You can always go out here and buy a high dollar $5,000 generator and it power the whole house.
They got a thing now.
Or get a solar panel. Get a solar panel.
Yeah, but they got a thing now.
So the electricity ain't gonna stop them.
If you're not hooked up with electric, and you're living off the grid, and you're a homeowner or a homesteader, it's against the law.
Really?
Yeah.
Federal or is that state?
From what I understand, it's state. By state. And some states have it and some don't. Because there's a lot more homesteaders out there that are going off the grid.
Right.
Selling the electric
back to the electric company.
Back to them. Back to the grid.
And now they're saying that that's illegal.
Yeah.
So they're really cornering that market towards making sure that we get fed our electricity
they get their money
from them.
And we're in control of your juice. Yeah. They're just trying to institute control.
They're trying to rule under tyranny.
Oh yeah, it is. It's getting that way.
Rule under tyranny is what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's the very thing that my father fought in World War II to prevent from this country of being taken over by